So imagine checking into a five-star luxury suite, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
You walk out, you eat some incredibly complex world-class cuisine, and then you take this hyper-modern, high-speed train across a glowing megacity.
Sounds pretty ideal.
Yeah, right, but here's the catch. Imagine your total daily bill for all of that is like less than what you'd spend on a standard, completely mediocre Tuesday back home.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah, seriously. Today, we are cracking open a really sensitive, incredibly granular travel dossier.
Oh, this is the big one.
It is. It's a document that basically claims the ultimate travel loophole is currently wide open in Southeast Asia.
But, and this is the crucial part, there's a catch coming.
Right, exactly. There's a massive structural cost reset that is about to just slam that window shut.
Yeah, looking at this source material, it's essentially a financial and, architectural blueprint for beating this system.
Mm-hmm.
But the window of opportunity it describes is very, very narrow.
It really is. So this isn't your standard breezy top 10 things to do list. We are diving deep into a comprehensive 2026 travel briefing. And this was designed specifically for a show called the Phil and H Travel Podcast.
Right.
And to set the stage properly, to really honor the mission of this deep dive into the source material, I actually need to read the exact opening lines of this dossier to you.
Well, lay it on me.
Okay, it starts exactly like this. Welcome to the Phil and H Travel Podcast. Is it worth it?
I mean, that is just brilliant framing right there.
Isn't it?
It really is, because it immediately forces you out of that romantic daydreaming phase of travel planning.
The Pinterest board phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it drops you right into the cold, hard reality of return on investment.
Right. And so today, our mission is to act as your guides through all 11 segments of this Phil and H dossier in the exact order the authors laid them out.
We're evaluating a highly specific geographic pairing here.
We are. The Kuala Lumpur and Malacca corridor. Phil and H described this as Malaysia's most powerful 1-2 punch.
Oh, I like that phrasing.
Yeah, so we are going to stress test every hard fact, every single price point, and crucially, we're going to evaluate this impending 2027 cost reset that the authors are sounding the alarm over.
Because it is an alarm.
It is. By the end of this deep dive, you will know exactly what to expect structurally, financially, and culturally if you step off a plane in Malaysia right now.
And, we really need to establish why this specific corridor, Kuala Lumpur to Malacca, is presented as the ultimate pairing in the first place.
Why those two?
Well, if you look at the macro trends in global travel, finding a hyper-modern megacity and a perfectly preserved historical site within, a 90-minute radius of each other.
That's pretty rare.
It's essentially the holy grail of urban geography. I mean, Kuala Lumpur, or KL, provides this vertical, high-speed, futuristic experience.
Right.
It's elastic, it's massive. And then Malacca, on the other hand, gives you a horizontal, slow-paced, living museum.
So it's the contrast.
Exactly. The contrast is what makes the pairing so potent. You're getting two entirely different centuries, two entirely different pacing structures in a single trip.
But the urgency that Phil and H inject into this dossier right from the jump, that's what really caught my eye.
Oh, for sure.
Let's get right into segment 1 of their briefing, which is hook, context, and supporting facts.
Okay, let's unpack this.
They start with a number that genuinely stops you in your tracks. And honestly, I need you to explain the math to me here because I almost didn't believe it when I read it.
I had the same reaction, honestly.
Right. They claim that a solo, mid-range traveler can do 7 days covering both Kuala Lumpur and Malacca. And this includes return flights from London for under $1,200 USD all in.
I mean, it sounds like a TAFO, doesn't it?
It does. A transatlantic cross-hemisphere journey for under $1,200. Wait, hold on. A flight from London to Southeast Asia is, easily a 13 or 14-hour journey?
At least, yeah.
How is it mathematically possible for an airline to fly you across the globe and for you to stay in premium hotels for a week and eat out 3 times a day, all for under $1,200? What is subsidizing that?
Well, it's a combination of intense airline competition and immense local price compression.
Okay, break that down for me.
So you have the Gulf carriers, right? Emirates, Qatar, Etihad.
Right, the big ones.
Yeah, and they're running massive capacity through their hubs, which just constantly suppresses the airfare to major Asian transit hubs like KL.
Oh.
But the real secret is the purchasing power parity once you actually land. The destination itself essentially acts as the subsidy.
That makes sense. And Phil and H are very quick to clarify what that $1,200 actually buys you.
Because people hear that and assume the worst, right?
Exactly. If you're listening to this and assuming it means like sleeping in a 12-bed hostel dorm and eating plain rice every day, you are wrong.
Very wrong.
The dossier specifically states that this budget includes a clean, mid-range hotel in the KLCC district.
And just to decode that jargon for everyone, KLCC stands for Kuala Lumpur City Center.
Right.
It is the absolute premium financial and tourist hub right at the base of the Petronas Towers.
Yeah.
It's not the outskirts. You're sleeping in the most expensive real estate in the country.
Exactly. And the budget also includes air conditioning every single night, 3 actual restaurant meals a day, entry to the Petronas Towers observation deck,
Nice.
a Malacca river cruise, Trishaw rides, and even a private grab car back to the airport at the end.
So we are talking about a highly comfortable, completely frictionless tier of travel. It's not survival mode.
No, not at all.
It's full vacation mode.
And the flight benchmarks the authors pulled to prove this are super fascinating.
What did they find?
So according to their data for 2026, return flights into Kuala Lumpur International Airport from Sydney start at roughly $380 USD.
Wow.
From London, they hit that $470 USD mark. And from Toronto, which is practically the other side of the planet, it's approximately $780 USD.
That's just incredible value.
But here is the massive caveat, right? The whole reason this briefing feels like a ticking time bomb. Phil and H are warning that Malaysia's cost structure is shifting violently.
Yes, the macroeconomic context here is really critical, and it's why the authors are pushing this whole go now narrative.
What's changing?
Well, the dossier highlights several compounding legislative and economic factors that hit in 2026. First, you have the Malaysian Sales and Service Tax, the SST.
Okay.
The government increased this to 8%, and it started hitting hotel stays in January 2026.
And I imagine the hotels didn't just, eat that cost out of the goodness of their hearts.
Exactly. I mean, in hospitality, margins are notoriously tight anyway. The hotel operators didn't absorb that 8% SST. They just passed it directly to the consumer.
Makes sense.
And because they had to update their pricing models anyway, many of them used it as an opportunity to adjust for post-pandemic inflation.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah. So the dossier notes this resulted in overnight room rate jumps of 10 to 30% for budget and mid-range properties.
Wow, that's a massive spike to happen overnight. But it doesn't stop there, does it?
No, it doesn't.
The dossier also points to a fuel shock. They note that tour packages, like if you want to hire a driver for a day, are expected to jump up to 50%.
50%.
Why such a massive jump just for tours?
It actually comes down to state subsidies. For decades, Malaysia heavily subsidized fuel for its citizens, which kept transport artificially cheap.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Right. But recently, the government's fuel subsidy bill essentially quadrupled in a single quarter, mostly due to global oil markets.
Ouch.
The state simply can't sustain that, so they are rolling back those subsidies. For a tour operator running a fleet of, diesel vans, their operating costs just skyrocketed.
And again, that gets passed directly to you, the traveler.
Exactly.
And on top of the SST and the fuel costs, the dossier explicitly calls out the tourism tax.
Ah, yes, the famous tourism tax.
It is a flat RM10, which translates to about $2.20 USD per room per night. And this is applied to every single foreign visitor.
No exception.
Right. It doesn't matter if you are paying $15 for a backpacker dorm or $500 for a luxury suite. You are paying that $2.20 every single night.
And if we look at the psychology of pricing here, these incremental taxes and subsidy removals, they represent a fundamental structural shift.
How so?
The destination is still objectively incredibly cheap compared to Western markets. I mean, $1,200 for a week from London is still a miracle.
Yeah, absolute miracle.
But as Phil and H rightly warn, it is cheap on a countdown clock.
Right.
The smart traveler is locking this in now in 2026, before the full weight of this impending 2027 reset permanently alters the baseline cost of visiting Southeast Asia.
Basically, the floor is rising.
The floor is rising. That creates this intense go right now energy.
Absolutely.
And honestly, it seems like everyone got the memo, which brings us to segment 2 of the dossier: context, crowds, and best time.
Because with urgency comes a massive surge in human bodies, naturally.
Exactly. The briefing highlights that Malaysia processed 10.65 million international arrivals in just the first quarter of 2026 alone. That is just an astonishing volume of humanity.
Isn't it?
To put that in perspective, that is the equivalent of the entire population of Sweden flying into the country in a 90-day window.
Oh, wow. When you put it like that, that's insane.
It is.
And the authors point out a really stark contrast in how these two specific destinations, KL and Malacca, handle that avalanche of people.
Right, because they handle it very differently.
Kuala Lumpur, because it's a modern megacity, it just absorbs it. The authors specifically praise the MRT and LRT.
And for those unfamiliar, that's the mass rapid transit and light rapid transit, their subway and elevated train networks.
Right. They call them genuinely world-class. You can have millions of people moving around KL, and you might not even notice the strain because they're all just zipping around underground or on elevated tracks.
Yeah, megacity has elastic infrastructure. You have a surge of tourists, you just run the trains every 3 minutes instead of every 6 minutes.
You add more carriages.
Exactly. The city physically stretches to accommodate the volume.
But Malacca. The dossier says Malacca is buckling.
Oh, entirely.
The historic core of Malacca is compact, it's highly walkable, and it is showing serious signs of structural strain.
What do they say about Jonker Street?
Phil and H paint this incredibly claustrophobic picture of Jonker Street, which is the main heritage and night market street on a weekend evening.
Yeah.
They say it feels completely locked up. You have neon trishas fighting for inches of space against pedestrians and street food queues stretching 20 to 30 minutes just to get a single snack.
And this brings up a really important phenomenon regarding the carrying capacity of UNESCO World Heritage Sites.
What do you mean?
Well, why do places like Malacca's historic core, or, Venice or Kyoto, buckle so visibly under pressure? It's because their urban planning is fundamentally rigid.
Ah, right.
Malacca was designed centuries ago. Those streets were built for foot traffic, maybe a small wooden cart.
Not a million tourists.
Exactly. They do not have the physical width to accommodate an influx of millions of domestic tourists combined with international arrivals. There are no multi-level pedestrian walkways like you have in KL. You are all forced into the exact same narrow geographic bottleneck.
So if you're listening to this and thinking, I don't want to fly 14 hours just to stand in a sweaty line for half an hour to eat, how do you avoid that?
Good question.
The authors say the only antidote to that kind of structural crowding is slow travel and timing your trip perfectly.
Timing is everything here.
They provide a very clear calendar matrix. The absolute best times to go are the shoulder seasons, March to early May and September to mid-November.
Which makes perfect meteorological sense, right?
Does it?
Yeah, in those windows, you sit right between the major monsoon seasons. The daily rain is manageable, the extreme humidity is slightly lower, and crucially, you avoid the massive international holiday rushes.
Oh, that makes total sense. And I noticed those windows align perfectly with the flight economics we discussed earlier, too.
Yes, they do.
If you're planning a trip from Australia, that March to May window gives you the best airfare value. If you're going from the UK or North America, September and October historically offer the cheapest fares into KL.
It's the absolute sweet spot where weather, crowd size, and economic value all intersect.
But Phil and H are absolutely brutal about the worst times to go. They essentially issue a travel warning for January and February.
Oh yeah, they say do not go during the Chinese New Year block.
Absolutely not.
Because if you do, you are competing with massive domestic wealth.
Right. I actually made this exact mistake once in another part of Asia. I didn't check the local holiday calendar, and I arrived to find literally everything either closed or priced like a luxury resort.
It's a classic trap.
The dossier states that during Chinese New Year, hotel prices in Malacca spike by 40 to 60%.
Unbelievable.
And Jonker Street becomes functionally impassable because Malacca is a massive domestic holiday destination for Malaysians and Singaporeans.
And they flag December as a red zone too, right?
Yeah, because you get hit with the Australian and UK school holidays.
It's just a perfect storm of international families and regional tourists.
And from a structural standpoint, the dossier gives a hard, non-negotiable minimum for this itinerary.
What's the minimum?
3 nights in Kuala Lumpur, 2 full days in Malacca. They argue that if you try to do less than that, you aren't actually experiencing the cities. You're just running through a checklist and absorbing the friction of the crowd.
And that transition from the macro planning, like the when and the where, to the micro reality of actually arriving is exactly what Phil and H tackle next.
Right, segment 3.
Yes, segment 3 is titled First Impressions. And what I really love about their approach here is that they focus entirely on the immediate logistical choices you make the second you land.
Yeah.
And how those choices dictate the whole psychological tone of your trip.
This was honestly my favorite part of the briefing because
Gotcha.
it is so incredibly specific. You land at KLIA Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and immediately you are faced with a transport battle.
The age-old debate.
On one hand, you have the KLIA Express train. The dossier notes it takes exactly 28 minutes to get to KL Central. It costs $12 USD, and they describe it as fast, fiercely air-conditioned, and completely reliable.
Sounds great.
But on the other hand, you have Grab, which is the local ride-hailing app, basically the Uber of Southeast Asia. Grab costs roughly $18 to $25 USD to get you directly to your hotel in the KLCC district.
Now, on paper, if there are two of you, the Grab seems like the better deal, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, $20 split two ways to go directly to your hotel door rather than taking a train and navigating a station.
That is exactly what I would have booked immediately. But the dossier does not mince words here. They issue a massive warning. Take the train.
Really? Why?
They point out that traffic in KL can turn what should be a 45-minute drive into a 90-minute stop-and-go nightmare, especially if you land during evening rush hour.
Oh, and from an urban design and psychological perspective, Phil and H are entirely correct here. Think about the state of your nervous system after a 14-hour flight. You are exhausted, you're jet-lagged, you're irritable.
Very irritable.
Sitting in gridlock traffic on a tropical highway is the absolute worst possible introduction to a city.
It sounds awful.
Taking the KLIA Express drops you at KL Central, which instantly connects you to the entire city via the MRT subway. You basically bypass the surface-level chaos entirely.
Right.
It's a frictionless entry into what is inherently a high-friction environment.
And speaking of that environment, the way the authors describe the sensory contrast between these two cities is practically cinematic.
How do they describe KL?
They describe stepping out of the train station in Kuala Lumpur as this magnificent sensory overload. The city is fiercely vertical.
Yes.
You've got the metallic Petronas Towers looming over you, reflecting the sun. You hear the call to prayer echoing from Masjid India bouncing off the skyscrapers. You smell the intense spices from the 24-hour mamic food stalls operating at midnight.
Wow.
It is loud, it is chaotic, but it is hyper-functional.
It's a city that demands your attention immediately. It forces you to look up.
But then, a few days later, you take the bus down to Malacca.
The bus.
And by the way, the dossier outlines this bus journey with militant precision.
Tell me more.
You go to the TBS terminal, and we'll talk about the TBS trap later. You pay just $3 to $5 USD, and the ride takes 90 to 120 minutes.
Super cheap.
And they stress that you must book this ticket via the transnational or airline app on your phone. If you just walk up to the terminal on a Friday afternoon hoping to buy a ticket, it's a massive gamble.
Oh, for sure.
You might be waiting 4 hours for an empty seat.
Because it's that rigid infrastructure again. There are only so many buses that can run that route.
Right. But when you finally arrive in Malacca, the impression is the complete opposite of KL.
How so?
The authors describe stepping off the bus and walking into Stadthuis Square. Suddenly, you are surrounded by perfectly preserved 17th century Dutch colonial architecture, all painted this unmistakable deep terracotta red.
I can picture it.
The city is horizontal, it is low-slung, it is quiet.
That transition is vital. Going from the roar of a midnight food stall in a vertical metropolis to the quiet, heavy air of a terracotta colonial square. It's jarring, but in the best way possible.
It really is.
It completely resets your nervous system. You go from looking up at skyscrapers to looking down at the cobblestones.
So, you've arrived, you've survived the sensory shift. Where are you actually sleeping?
The big question.
Which brings us to segment 4, the accommodation matrix. And I have to say, the authors of this dossier went way above and beyond here.
Did they?
Yeah, they didn't just give vague price ranges. They went out and provided exact named properties and USD prices across 4 distinct tiers for both cities.
See, this is where the extreme detail of the source material proves its worth. By anchoring the budget to real properties, they prove the math from segment 1 isn't just theoretical.
Let's start at the bottom with the budget tier.
Yeah.
In KL, they recommend a place called Momo's in the Chow Kit area. It runs about $12 to $18 USD for a dorm bed. That's practically nothing.
Right? The authors highlight that it has a rooftop bar and a great social vibe, perfect for younger solo travelers. But Malacca is where the budget tier gets truly special.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they suggest looking for guest houses on a street called Jalan Tuntan Cheng Lok, which is known locally as Millionaire's Row.
Oh, that name.
You can get a private heritage room there for $20 to $35 USD a night.
What's fascinating here is the architectural reality of that Malacca budget option.
Yeah.
For $30, you aren't staying in a sterile, modern concrete box with a tiny window. You are staying in a converted Chinese shophouse.
Actually, for those who haven't been to Southeast Asia, what exactly is a Chinese shophouse?
It's a very specific architectural style from the colonial era. They are incredibly narrow from the street view, but they stretch extremely far back.
Oh, like a bowling alley?
Kinda, yeah. And they often have open-air interior courtyards designed to catch the breeze and funnel rain.
That sounds gorgeous. They have original heavy timber floors, intricately carved wooden doors, and heritage-listed facades. The cultural richness of the budget tier in Malacca actually rivals and in some ways surpasses the luxury tier because you are physically sleeping inside the history of the city. You are participating in the heritage, not just observing it.
That is incredible value. Okay, moving one step up to the mid-range tier, which is where that $1,200 total budget comes from in KL's premium KLCC district, they point to the Impiana KLCC hotel.
How much?
It runs $70 to $95 USD a night, and they note it even gives you partial views of the Petronas Towers.
Not bad at all.
If you want something more standardized, they suggest the Holiday Inn Express KL City Center for $65 to $85 USD.
Okay, good to know.
In Malacca, the mid-range pick is a place called Casa del Rio. It is right on the river, beautifully restored, and runs $90 to $120 USD.
I really want listeners to notice the price compression here. Casa del Rio is a premium riverside boutique hotel in the heart of a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Right.
To get something comparable in a European heritage site, say on a canal in Venice or Amsterdam, you are paying $400 easily.
At least.
To get it for $120 a night is practically unheard of in Western markets.
It really exposes how inflated Western travel has become, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
For the family tier, Phil and H suggest going all out in KL with the Mandarin Oriental.
Ooh, fancy.
It's $220 to $280 USD a night, and it sits right opposite the Petronas Towers. They call it total core memory stuff for the kids.
Oh, I bet.
In Malacca, families should look at the Hatton Hotel.
Yeah.
It's $80 to $110 USD, offers a massive pool to escape the afternoon heat, plenty of space, and is totally walkable to the heritage course, so you don't have to wrangle kids into taxis.
Nice. And finally, the tier that really breaks the curve.
Yes, the luxury tier.
Let's hear it.
I read this part 3 times to make sure I wasn't missing a zero. In KL, the dossier points to the Four Seasons. They describe it as having an extraordinary sky pool situated on the upper floors of a gleaming new skyscraper. The absolute pinnacle of modern hospitality.
And the price.
$380 to $520 USD a night.
Wow.
And the offers do drop a quick reminder here. Don't forget that $2.20 USD per night tourism tax and the 8% SST will be added to all these rates at checkout.
Sure, but if we just pause and analyze that Four Seasons rate, let's take the high end. $520 for absolute, uncompromised, top-tier global luxury.
Yeah.
Unimpeachable service, hyper-modern facilities. That is the price of a standard, fairly average 3-star room near Times Square in New York, or a cramped, unair-conditioned room in central London during the summer.
It's actually absurd when you compare them side by side.
The value proposition of Malaysia's premium market is, frankly, staggering.
It essentially allows a traveler who might normally budget for a 3-star mid-range experience in Europe to temporarily access the lives of the ultra-wealthy in Asia.
Exactly. It democratizes luxury, at least temporarily.
But here's where the dossier takes a sharp turn and where the culture really comes alive. Segment 5. Food, groceries, and etiquette.
Ah, the best part.
Because, as Phil and H point out, you can stay in a $500 sky-high hotel room, but the true heart of Malaysia is found sitting on a plastic stool on the street.
I completely agree with them.
They argue that the food culture alone is one of the strongest arguments for visiting the country.
And true to form, they back up that romantic notion with intense granular economic detail. Right?
They really do. Let's talk about the street and mamak scene in KL.
Yes. Mamak stalls are just fascinating.
Yeah.
They're essentially 24-hour Indian Muslim eateries.
Right.
They are the great equalizer in Malaysian society. You'll see guys in expensive suits sitting next to taxi drivers at 2 a.m., all watching a football match and eating. It is the definitive third space for locals.
And the prices the dossier lists for this third space are wild. A plate of nasi lemak from a street stall, which is the national dish of coconut rice, spicy sambal, peanuts, and anchovies, runs $1.50 to $2.50 USD.
Amazing.
A fresh roti canai, which is this incredible flaky flatbread served with dal and curry for dipping, is less than $2 USD.
Oh, that sounds so good right now.
The authors explicitly name Restaurant Palita and Restaurant Yusuf Dan Zakir as two of the most reliable spots.
Good tips.
And when you get to Malacca, they say you can get a massive, complex bowl of spicy laksa soup on Jalan Kien for just $3 to $4 USD.
It's important to provide the currency context that Phil and H include here to explain why the math works out this way.
What's the exchange rate?
The exchange rate they base this on is 4.3 Malaysian ringgit to 1 USD. So if you hand over a 10 ringgit note, which is about $2.30 USD, that essentially buys you a massive, freshly cooked, culturally complex meal at a hawker center.
That's wild, but the authors include a very strict etiquette rule for these places. They are strictly cash only.
Oh, good to know.
Do not try to tap your phone or use a credit card at a street cart. And crucially, tipping is not expected or practiced. You hand over small local notes and you get incredible food.
Which is a huge relief for travelers coming from North America, where tip fatigue is a very real psychological burden right now.
Absolutely, it's exhausting. Now, what if you have a sensitive stomach or you just want to grab snacks for the hotel room?
Yeah, what about groceries?
The authors broke down the grocery store prices, and again, the value is insane. They suggest going to Jaya Grocer in the KLCC area. This isn't a discount bin store. They call it a quality-focused mid-range supermarket.
It's where expats and middle-class locals shop.
Right. And at Jaya Grocer, a 1.5-liter bottle of water is 50 cents. A loaf of bread is $1.80. Fresh noodles for $1.10.
Wow.
A liter of orange juice is $2.20. You can even buy a ready-made packaged nasi lemak for $2.80. A 500-gram bag of rice is 90 cents.
So cheap.
The authors also mention Lotuses and Giant if you want to seek out even larger, budget-friendly hypermarkets. But honestly, at these prices, Jaya is cheap enough.
Notice what isn't incredibly cheap in their breakdown, though.
Oh.
The dossier specifically highlights what they call the sin tax.
Oh, this caught my eye immediately. A can of Tiger beer in the supermarket is about $1.50 USD. Not bad.
Right.
But the dossier warns that if you order a beer sitting down in a restaurant or a bar, it suddenly jumps to $5 to $8 USD. Why is a beer costing almost 3 times the price of a full meal?
It's a direct result of Malaysia's state policy and taxation. Malaysia is a Muslim-majority country, and Islamic financial principles heavily influence the tax code. The state actively subsidizes essential local agricultural products like rice, cooking oil, and flour, which keeps the street food incredibly cheap.
Right, that makes sense.
But they apply massive punitive taxes to alcohol to discourage consumption. So you have this fascinating economic dichotomy where your spicy noodles cost $2 because they are structurally subsidized, but the cold beer you want to drink with it costs $8 because it is structurally penalized.
That perfectly explains the why behind the prices. But Phil and H guarantee that you won't even care about the price of beer when you get to Malacca's food scene.
Ooh.
They don't just call it food, they call it a separate education. They are referring to Peranakan, or Nyonya cuisine.
Yes, the cultural synthesis of Nyonya food is arguably one of the greatest culinary stories in the world.
Really? Tell me about it.
It's born from centuries of intermarriage between early Chinese immigrants and local Malay populations.
Wow.
They took Chinese cooking techniques like wok frying and braising and combined them with local Malay ingredients like galangal, lemongrass, tamarind, and coconut milk.
That sounds incredible.
It produces flavor profiles that literally do not exist anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly labor-intensive to cook.
And the dossier names the specific experiences you have to seek out. You have to try chicken capitan, which is this rich, complex curry.
Oh, so good.
You need to get sendal, which is a shaved iced dessert with green rice flour jelly and palm sugar, specifically at a place called Jonker 88. And for dinner, sede soup at Capital Sede, where you dip skewers of raw meat and vegetables into a boiling vat of thick, spicy peanut sauce right at your table.
That sounds amazing.
And the budget for this? The authors state you can have an absolute uninhibited feast for 2 people at a Heritage Nyonya restaurant for $12 to $18 USD total.
So you are paying less than $10 a head for historically significant cuisine that takes days to prepare.
Exactly.
When you combine the low accommodation costs with these heavily subsidized food prices, you start to see exactly how that $1,200 initial figure for a week from London is entirely feasible.
Which is the perfect pivot into segment 6, the daily out-of-pocket budget matrix.
Yes.
Because Phil and H actually mapped out every single dollar you were likely to spend in a day. And they did this assuming the 8% SST increase, the fuel absorption, and the $2.20 tourism tax are all active.
So it's accurate.
They are not giving us pre-pandemic fairy tales. This is 2026 reality. Let's run through their tiers.
I'm very curious to see how they define low versus high here.
The low or backpacker tier is set at $28 to $40 USD a day. That covers a dorm bed for 12 to 18, 3 meals at street stalls for 6 to 9 total, public transport for 4 to 7, and maybe one small paid attraction.
And the reason that extremely low budget works without feeling like a punishment is because of the abundance of world-class free attractions.
Right.
The dossier points out that climbing the massive staircase at the Batu Caves is completely free. Walking the heritage zone of Jonker Street is free.
Yeah.
Wandering around KLCC Park at night to watch the fountain show under the Petronas Towers is free. The city doesn't financially penalize you for simply existing and exploring.
Moving up to the mid-range tier, which the authors explicitly note is where most Western travelers will comfortably land, you are looking at $90 to $130 USD a day out of pocket.
Okay, that's very doable.
That gets you a $65 to $95 private hotel room, $25 to $35 to cover 3 sit-down restaurant meals, grab cars instead of always taking the train, a couple of paid activities like the $16 Skybridge entry, and maybe an $8 to $12 drink at a rooftop bar.
That's amazing.
I just marvel at the quality of life that $130 a day buys you in this quarter right now.
It's the absolute sweet spot of global travel value. You are sacrificing nothing in terms of comfort, but you aren't paying premium markups.
But if you do want to pay for the premium markup, they outline the high or comfort tier, $200 to $280 USD a day.
What does that get you?
That gets you that $220 luxury hotel, like the Mandarin Oriental, and leaves $60 to $90 for fine dining for 2.
Again, you are getting world-class luxury for the price of global mediocrity.
Exactly. But I think the truly fascinating tier here is the one they dedicated to remote workers, the digital nomad monthly budget.
Oh, this is vital data. The entire landscape of travel has shifted toward longer working stays. How did they map this out?
It is so detailed. They map out a total monthly living cost of $1,400 to $1,900 USD.
Wait, per month?
Per month. That includes renting a private modern apartment in expat-heavy districts like Mont Kiara or Bangsar South for $600 to $800 a month.
Wow.
Food is $350 to $500. Transport is $80 to $120. A dedicated desk at a premium co-working space, and they specifically name WRQ or Colony, is $80 to $150.
Okay.
A local high-speed SIM card is just $10. Total utilities, including running the AC constantly, $50 to $80.
If we zoom in on those digital nomad figures, it perfectly explains why Kuala Lumpur is currently surging as a top 5 hub globally for remote workers.
Oh, for sure.
It's actively competing with places like Lisbon or Medellin. The infrastructure-to-cost ratio is simply unbeatable. For under $2,000 a month, you have first-world fiber-optic internet, beautifully designed co-working spaces, and luxury apartment living with infinity pools and gyms.
It literally makes you question why you pay rent anywhere else.
It really does.
And just to round out the budgets, they note that a family of 4 doing 7 days across KL and Malacca should budget $2,800 to $3,400 USD total, excluding their flights.
Okay.
That covers 2 mid-range hotel rooms or a suite, family meals, and key attractions like the aquarium.
But staying within any of these budgets requires avoiding unforced errors.
Very true.
This dossier doesn't just give you the rosy picture and leave you to fend for yourself.
Yeah.
Phil and H dedicated all of Segment 7 entirely to 3 named logistics traps.
Yes, the trap.
These are the specific mistakes that will bleed your budget dry if you aren't paying attention.
I am so glad they included this because I genuinely laughed out loud when I read Trap 1. The TBS confusion.
Oh, is it?
It is the classic sweat-inducing travel nightmare, and I have absolutely fallen for a version of this. The dossier explains that every guidebook tells you to take the bus from KL down to Malacca.
Right, which makes sense.
That is true. But what the guidebooks fail to explain is that the long-distance bus does not leave from KL Central, which is the main train station in the city center.
Oh, no.
It leaves from TBS, the Terminal Bersepadu Selatan, which is a massive airport-like bus terminal located miles away in the southern suburbs.
The mechanics of this trap are brutal for a first-time visitor.
Oh, completely.
Let's use an analogy. It's like flying into New York, being told your connecting flight is at the main airport, and showing up at JFK, only to look at your ticket and realize your flight actually leaves from Newark in New Jersey.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
You arrive at KL Central with all your heavy bags, expecting to easily board a long-distance bus, only to find out you are in the completely wrong geographic location.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the authors note that missing this connection either adds an hour of frantic transit time as you try to figure out the local trains, or it forces you to take a $10 to $15 grab car directly to KBS to make your bus.
Wiping out the savings of taking the bus in the first place.
Precisely. But the dossier provides the exact fix. Add 40 minutes to your travel buffer, take the KTM commuter train 2 stops south from KL Central directly into the TBS terminal, and pre-book your bus ticket for $3 to $5 on the app. Do not fall for the KL Central illusion.
It's a brilliant piece of advice. What is Trap 2?
Trap 2 is equally geographical, but it happens once you arrive. It's called the grab surge in Malacca.
Oh, I can guess where this is going.
As we discussed, the Heritage Core in Malacca has extremely limited, narrow road access. So grab drivers can't actually get into the streets around Stathus or Jonker Street easily.
Right.
The result, the authors warn that a normal $3 daytime ride to your hotel turns into a $9 surge price nightmare on a Friday night because the algorithm detects the gridlock.
And you probably don't even get to your door.
Exactly. The worst part is the driver usually ends up dropping you off a 15-minute walk away from your hotel anyway because the streets are completely impassable. You pay triple the price just to walk.
The fix here is embracing the physical scale of the city. The entire UNESCO heritage zone is under 2 kilometers across. You can just walk it.
Yeah.
Or, if you have bags, use the local trishaws for $3 to $5. A bicycle can navigate those narrow alleys and bypass a traffic jam much faster than a sedan.
And Trap 3 is the one that really hits the wallet, and it is infuriating. They call it the hidden tax on third-party booking platforms like Agoda and Booking.com.
The dark patterns and psychology of drip pricing.
It is so sneaky. The dossier reminds us that the RM10 or $2.20 USD per night tourism tax is mandatory by law.
Right.
But these booking platforms often hide it, along with other taxes, until the absolute final payment page.
Of course they do.
When you combine that hidden tourism tax with the new 8% SST and a standard 6% service charge that many hotels apply, your final hotel bill can jump 15 to 20% above the heavily advertised nightly rate you saw on the search page.
It's a classic bait-and-switch feeling. Travelers really need to build a mental 20% buffer when browsing those sites.
Yeah.
As Phil and H bluntly put it, on a $700 hotel bill for a week, you are looking at an additional $140 in taxes and fees, not zero.
That's a lot.
If you don't anticipate that up front, you end your trip feeling cheated at the checkout desk, which sours the memory of an otherwise great holiday. It completely ruins the final emotional beat of the trip.
So you've navigated the taxes, you've avoided the wrong bus terminal. What does this all mean for how you actually feel walking around these cities on a Tuesday afternoon?
Yeah, what's the vibe?
That takes us to segment 8, safety, solo travel, and comfort. And the authors offer some very reassuring but highly practical advice.
Let's look at Kuala Lumpur first. By major global city metrics, KL is objectively very safe.
Yes, the dossier states the MRT train system is safe at all hours, and violent crime direct against tourists is exceedingly rare.
Good to know.
But they do pinpoint the main persistent risk, motorbike bag snatching. They highlight areas like Chow Kit or the Bukit Bintang backpacker strip as hotspots, particularly after midnight.
How do you fix that?
The fix they offer is just simple urban awareness. Wear a crossbody bag and keep it on your interior shoulder, facing away from the traffic. Keep your phone in your front pocket, not loosely in your hand near the curb.
Standard megacity protocols. But what I find particularly insightful is their analysis of the solo female travel dynamic in this region.
I really wanted to ask you about this because their claim is very strong here. The dossier states that KL is culturally more comfortable for solo female travelers than traditional backpacker hubs like Bangkok, Bali, or Ho Chi Minh City because there is significantly less street harassment. Why is that the case?
It's a fascinating sociocultural dynamic that often surprises Western travelers.
Tell me more.
Malaysia is a Muslim-majority country, and the prevailing cultural norms heavily emphasize public modesty, politeness, and a deep respect for personal boundaries.
Okay.
This actually vastly reduces the friction of aggressive street harassment or catcalling that you might experience in the more, hedonistic, alcohol-fueled tourist hubs in Southeast Asia.
Right.
As long as a traveler observes basic cultural modesty, which the dossier notes means covering shoulders and knees when visiting mosques or rural areas, the public environment is uniquely respectful and comfortable. Men are culturally conditioned not to intrude on a woman's space.
That is incredibly reassuring context. As for Malacca, the dossier says safety isn't even a meaningful concern.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they joke that the biggest risk you face at night is being annoyed by the incredibly loud music playing from the passing trishaws.
I love that.
That is the exact correct level of concern you want on a vacation. Not dangerous, just occasionally irritating.
Exactly.
Oh, and they include a golden rule for comfort everywhere in Malaysia.
Yeah.
Drink bottled water.
Always a good idea.
The tap water is technically treated at the plant, but the authors warn that the pipes in older buildings can be questionable. Even locals buy bottled water, and at 50 cents for a 1.5-liter bottle at Jaya Grocer, it is absolutely not worth risking a stomach bug to save 50 cents.
It's all about mitigating friction. Which brings us to the emotional peaks and valleys of the trip in Segment 9, best moments and honest disappointments.
Yes.
I always appreciate when source material refuses to sugarcoat the experience, because if a guidebook says everything is amazing, nothing is amazing.
Phil and H are brutally honest here. Let's start with our best moments. The first one is the Petronas Towers sky bridge at sunset.
Okay.
It costs $16, takes about 90 minutes maximum, and the dossier says it is worth every single cent. You take the high-speed elevator to level 41 right during golden hour, and you get to look out over the lush green of KLCC Park and the massive, sprawling concrete of the city.
Sounds beautiful.
But they warn you have to book this specific sunset time slot weeks in advance on their website.
They also highlight the Batu Caves, which is a massive limestone hill with a series of caves and cave temples.
Yeah.
What makes this a best moment isn't just the visual spectacle of the 272 newly rainbow-painted steps leading up to the temple cave.
What makes it great, then?
It's the accessibility of the experience. It costs just $1.50 to take the commuter train out there. Entry to the main cave is completely free, and you can do the whole excursion in 90 minutes.
That's amazing.
Though they issue a strong warning that you must go before 10 a.m., otherwise the midday heat and the weekend crowds will make the climb absolutely miserable.
The Jonker Street Night Market in Malacca also firmly makes the best list. It runs Friday and Saturday nights.
Okay.
The authors love that there is no entry fee, no massive security queues. You just turn up and spend the evening eating $1 to $3 portions of incredible Nyonya street food while surrounded by generations-old Chinese antique shops. They also highlight the Malacca River Cruise at night. It's a $5 ticket. It takes 45 minutes. The historic murals along the riverbanks are beautifully illuminated, and it gives you a complete, breezy, historical overview of the city without having to walk in the heat.
But the honest disappointment section is where this dossier really proves its value to the listener.
Yeah.
What do they hate?
The reality check they provide on the Petronas Towers skybridge is exactly the kind of insider info you need.
Wait, didn't they just say the skybridge was a best moment?
They did, but there is a massive catch.
Yes. The dossier points out that the $16 skybridge ticket only gets you to level 41, which is the bridge connecting the two towers. It is not the true summit of the building.
Right.
They describe the frustrating feeling of standing on the bridge, looking up, and realizing there are 47 more floors above you that you cannot access on that ticket.
Exactly. It's an architectural tease. If your goal is a true 360-degree highest point panorama of the city, Phil and H argue you actually need to skip the Petronas Towers and go to the Menara KL Tower observation deck instead, which costs $26.
Ah.
A lot of tourists don't realize this distinction until they are already inside the Petronas Towers, feeling completely shortchanged.
And the other major disappointment, those famous Malacca trishaws.
Yes, the trishaws.
Authors say they look incredibly charming in Instagram photos, but the physical reality of riding in one is overwhelming.
Overwhelming how?
They note that they play incredibly loud, distorted Thai pop music from mounted speakers, charge a steep $8 to $12 for a 30-minute ride, and require very firm negotiation to avoid being overcharged.
Nice.
What started as traditional transport has morphed into a loud, flashing neon tourist gimmick.
It is the textbook evolution of a heritage asset into a commodified tourist trap. It's colorful, it's visually striking, but it has been completely stripped of its authenticity to cater to the lowest common denominator of mass tourism.
Totally.
So if the neon trishas and the crowded night markets don't sound appealing, what are your options?
Good question.
Segment 10 covers alternatives. Phil and H offer two very distinct paths if this specific KL Malacca corridor isn't quite the right fit for your travel style.
Let's analyze the first alternative, Penang.
Yes, Penang is an island state in northern Malaysia. The authors estimate a 5-night trip heading from KL up to Penang runs about $420 to $520 USD per person.
Very reasonable.
It's highly accessible. You can get on a quick $25 AirAsia flight to get there. The dossier argues that Penang's capital, Georgetown, offers a significantly greater, more diverse food scene and a more amplified, lived-in UNESCO heritage experience than Malacca.
But notice how the authors position it.
Yeah.
They correctly identify Penang not as a direct substitute for Malacca, but as the logical next step for a traveler. It requires more time, you have to deal with airport logistics again, and the crowds in Georgetown are just as heavy. It's for the traveler who wants to go deeper into Malaysia, not for the traveler looking for a quick 2-day add-on to KL.
The second alternative they present is Singapore, and the financial comparison the dossier makes here is stark.
Oh, I bet.
They peg Singapore at $180 to $240 USD a day for a mid-range traveler. A standard basic hotel room is going to cost you $200 to $280 a night, compared to KL's $65 to $95 for an equivalent room.
Singapore provides extreme, almost clinical safety and absolute zero logistical friction. The trains run exactly on time every time.
Yeah.
But you pay a massive premium for that frictionless environment. It is essentially 3 to 4 times the cost of KL.
When I read their breakdown, the analogy that came to mind is that Singapore is like a beautifully polished, incredibly expensive, master-planned theme park of a city.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Kuala Lumpur is a slightly messy, lived-in, breathing, sweating metropolis. The dossier makes a fantastic point. They are complementary hubs, not competitors.
Right.
Savvy travelers will fly through Singapore, spend a day experiencing the frictionless efficiency in the super trees, and then take the bus or a short flight north to spend their real time and their real money in KL and Malacca, where the cultural depth is richer and the dollar stretches infinitely further.
Which brings us to the culmination of this incredibly thorough document, segment 11, the Is It Worth It matrix.
Here we go.
Phil and H synthesize all of this pricing data, the warnings about the 2027 reset, and the logistical traps into 5 final verdicts based on traveler type.
It is the ultimate executive summary. Let's run through their 5 verdicts exactly as they wrote them.
Okay.
First up, the backpacker verdict. Their conclusion is a resounding yes. They argue the KL Malacca corridor is one of the last great circuits in the world where $35 to $40 a day buys genuine quality of life, like clean sheets, great food, and reliable transport, not just grim survival.
That's rare these days.
But they stress the urgency. Go before the 2027 reset completely closes the pricing gap between Malaysia and its more expensive neighbors.
The mid-range verdict is a strong yes. In fact, they call it the best value in the region right now.
Strong words.
The mathematical example they give is perfect. A UK couple can do 10 days, including their $2,200 return flights from London for under $3,500 total.
Wow.
You simply cannot get that level of hotel quality and food quality in Bali or Phuket for that price in 2026.
Next is the family verdict. This one is a yes, but with serious caveats.
What are the caveats?
A family of 4 can do this trip for $3,200 to $3,800. KL is fantastic for kids.
Yeah.
They point out attractions like Legoland and the massive aquarium, which is just $22 an adult.
That's great.
But they warn that Malacca involves far too much walking in the heat for kids under 5. And they reiterate, absolutely avoid the December and January school holidays, or the crowds will ruin the trip for your kids.
Makes total sense. The luxury verdict is where their analysis gets really nuanced.
Yeah.
It is a conditional yes.
Conditional.
Paying $350 to $520 for top-tier hotels like the Four Seasons is an incredible value for the physical room itself.
Sure.
But Phil and H point out that KL lacks the broader, hyper-developed fine dining and nightlife ecosystem you find in a place like Bangkok or Tokyo.
Ah, I see.
It's a secondary-tier luxury destination if your goal extends beyond just sitting in the hotel lobby. It's great for the room, Less great for the Michelin star dining scene.
And finally, the digital nomad verdict. This is a clear, definitive yes. The infrastructure is top 5 in the region.
Oh, definitely.
They highlight a specific program, the DE Rantau visa, which allows digital nomads to stay for 3 to 12 months legally for just a $208 USD application fee.
That's so cheap.
The only friction point they want about is avoiding car dependency. You must make sure you rent an apartment right next to an MRT station, or the daily traffic will literally drive you insane.
Looking at this dossier as a whole, the granularity of the detail is spectacular.
It really is.
It completely strips away the romantic, hazy vagueness of travel planning and replaces it with actionable economic reality for every conceivable type of traveler. It tells you exactly what things cost, exactly how they are changing, and exactly how to avoid being ripped off.
It really is a masterpiece of a briefing. It answers the ultimate question of whether a destination is actually worth your time and money in 2026. And to close the loop on this deep dive into the source material, I am going to read the exact sign-off verbatim from the document.
Let's hear it.
Here's how Phil and H end their dossier. If this gave you the honest verdict you needed, follow the show. New episodes drop every day.
Yeah.
That is the honest verdict from Phil and H.
A fitting end to a really rigorous analysis. But evaluating their data leaves me with one final provocative thought for you to mull over.
What's that?
We've seen their math, right? We've seen the $1,200 total budgets, the $500 luxury suites, and the $1.50 street meals. But in a world where global inflation is rapidly homogenizing travel costs everywhere, making every city feel equally expensive, will this impending 2027 price reset ultimately cost Malaysia its unique, highly accessible cultural edge? Or by raising the prices and pushing out the lowest budget travelers, will it simply force the world to finally acknowledge Malaysia and elevate it to the premium world-class tier it arguably already deserves to be in?